Hello my lovely readers and queers, welcome back to my channel. I am Franny and today I'm going to talk to you about the books that I read in the month of April. I think April was my worst reading month so far. I cannot complain because I read a book that was just everything to me. So that book alone made April unforgettable as a reading month. But for April, I do have my lowest average rating so far. I think it is 3.65 and I only read 5 books, all of which were audiobooks. So it's hard to judge. I definitely wanted to read more, but April was a packed month. Let me tell you, a lot happened in April. We moved houses. We're now in our new house. We were looking for cars. I got a car, and there was just a lot of settling down that needed to happen and putting furniture together. I can't say that I'm surprised. I think that every year, April is the month in which I do the least reading out of the whole year. So considering that, it's fine. I cannot complain, and I'm not. As I said, 5 books, 5 audiobooks. The average rating is 3.65, and I don't have too much to say about the books that I read in April, apart from the one, but I do have a separate review. I hope that this is not going to be as long as my March wrap-up was. Fingers crossed. The first book that I read in the month of April was The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties by Jessica Sutanto. This is the 3rd book in the Aunties series, and in this one, we follow Maddie, our main protagonist, as she is on her honeymoon with her now husband. They are going to Jakarta to visit their family and also for the Chinese New Year. While they're there, there's a man who is courting one of the aunties, and he brings a lot of red packets, which are basically envelopes containing money that usually married couples give to elderly people or children to celebrate the Chinese New Year. So this man, who is called Abraham Lincoln, gives all these red packets to Mary's family as part of his courtship, and he is rumored to be involved with the Chinese mafia somehow. And one of these red packets, unbeknownst to Mary and her family, contains a deed to a land that he had to give to one of his rivals that he's trying to create, an alliance with. This deed, of course, goes missing, and once he realizes that, he asks Maddie and her family to help him to recover this deed. And of course, as in all other novels in this series, mayhem ensues. I loved this book so much. It was so much fun to listen to. It had the same lightheartedness, the same comedy of errors tone of the first book that I had loved so much. The second one was a bit of a miss for me, but in this one, the aunties were back. It was so good. It was hilarious to listen to, and I have to recommend the audiobook if you want to try this series if you haven't yet, because Riza May is such a great narrator. Oh my goodness. And she also does a Chinese Indonesian broken English for the aunties, because of course they cannot speak perfect English. They kind of mix it up a little bit. And oh my goodness, she does such a great job. I love her, and I really love this series. I think that there's going to be a 4th one because, again, from how the 3rd one ended, you can kind of tell that there's a little bit of an open door for a 4th book in the series. And if there is going to be one, I'm all for it. Also, something that I particularly appreciated in this novel specifically is the fact that despite all this lightheartedness, the author was able to tackle a very specific topic, which is the North American centeredness of it all, which basically manifests in an attitude of superiority when it comes to moral grounds and how you're supposed to do things. This attitude of going somewhere else, going to another country, either as visitors or as immigrants, and instead of adapting to that country's customs and habits and traditions, you try to impose your own ideas, your own ways of doing things, instead of trying to understand and appreciate how that specific country works. Of course, I'm not talking about anything regarding human rights, that's out of this discussion. But if you come from a dominating culture, you sort of have this tendency of judging other countries. You try to impose your own way instead of being receptive and welcoming the change that comes with meeting another culture different from your own. So yeah, there's a lot of that in this book, as well as, the depiction of different generations, particularly when it comes to immigrants and countries that have very specific rules within the family relationships and dynamics. And I just loved all of that. Great read, definitely recommend. Then I listened to a very short audiobook that was a bit of a disappointment, and that is Murder at the Royal Ruby by Nita Prose. I have absolutely loved Nita Prose's The Maid series. There are 2 books in that series currently. I really hope that there's going to be a 3rd one. I've talked about The Mystery Guest, which is the 2nd installment in that series, in my January wrap-up, was it? I think so. And I love that series so much. So I wanted to give this one a go. This is a short story that was made for Audible. It belongs to a series in which each short story is written by a different author and of course narrated by different narrators. And I am not interested in the others. I only listened to this one because it was written by Nita Prose. And what can I say? I gave it 2 stars. I think it was very well narrated by Jess Naikian. I can't say that I disliked it because it was only something like 48 minutes long. It was less than 50 minutes, so it was very short to listen to. Basically a car ride to work, I can't be too harsh. But I don't think that it worked. Don't think the author had enough time to create a compelling mystery in 48 minutes. It is narrated from the point of view of an understudy in a theater production, and the main actress is murdered. So in these 48 minutes, we kind of get to know the understudy. We get to know a little bit about her life, how she got to work in this theater production, and she basically solves the murder by the end of it. So a lot happens, or maybe not enough happens in these 48 minutes to really make you get a feel for the story. I just don't think it worked. I don't think a short story is the appropriate length for a mystery story. Like, you don't have enough time to, have a crime, have clues, have a murder investigation, like not that type of murder story. I don't know if there are any good ones out there. If you think there are, please let me know in the comments, but I do not think it's the right length, the right format for that type of mystery story. So this one didn't work for me, and I gave it 2 stars. And then there was it. The book, the story, the masterpiece that gave meaning to my reading month of April. And that is The Evolving Truth of Ever Stronger Will by Maya MacGregor. Now, this book, I have a full review, a very specific video dedicated to me just rambling about this book and loving this book, in which I try to communicate, to express just how much I loved it and how much this book is important and how this should be mandatory reading and everyone should read this book. I will try to contain my excitement and my love right now because I already did that, so we don't need a replay of that. But I will try to tell you just a few things so you know what we're talking about here. But hopefully you will go and check that video out because this book needs its spotlight. This is Will's story. Will is an agender teen who is about to turn 18, and at the beginning of the book their biological mother dies, and so they have to try and figure out what to do in order to not go back into the foster care system. And at some point along the way there's a chance for them to reconnect with the one adoptive mother that truly cared for them and truly wanted to adopt them and be part of their lives and just give them all the love that they deserve and that they should have received throughout their whole life. I loved this book. I loved everything about it. I loved how it was written. I love that it is in second person and you just feel on your skin everything that they're going through, which is a lot. A lot. I loved that the audiobook is narrated by Vico Ortiz. They did such an incredible, powerful performance. I loved the representation. We have queerness, we have Black characters that have to deal with all the social hardships that come with being Black in America and even everywhere else in the world, if we want to be honest. We have a character that has Tourette syndrome. We have talks about privilege, about love, about family, about the foster care system, about trying to ascertain yourself, trying to find your place in a world that does not want you. We have a fragile yet strong and tenacious and determined character who wants to take up space, to step outside into a world that not only does not accept them, but goes out of its way to make it hard for them to just simply exist. And despite all that, Will does it. Will goes through a lot, but in the end, they do get it. They do get that love that they have deserved all along. And it was incredible. It was such a powerful journey. It was so intense and so beautiful. And you're gonna freaking cry while you listen to this, just like I did. You're going to want a physical book that I do own. It's somewhere. But you're gonna want a physical book just so that you can highlight and underline all the beautiful sentences and passages and just scenes that are so incredible and so precious and so hurtful but so beautiful. It's just, there's a whole world in this book. 5 huge stars, 10 stars, 100 stars, the whole galaxy to this book. If there is one book recommendation that you get from me this month, this whole year, let it be this one. Okay? Okay. Moving on. Next, I read Invoked Trouble by Dana Hawkins. This is the second installment in the Single in Seattle series, and this is a sapphic romance, a contemporary novel. We follow Remy and Maya. Remy is a bartender and she wants to get a house for herself. She wants to be able to put down a deposit, and in order to do that, she's just waiting for that promotion at work to come because she knows that she deserves it. She's one of the best and she thinks that it's coming soon. And Maya is a college student that wants to become a nurse. She moved back to Seattle with her family for the summer and she's brought in as the new bartender at Remy's place of work, and basically the two have to compete against each other to get a bonus that will be given at the end of the summer to the best bartender. Remy needs the bonus to get the house that she's always wanted. For years and years when she was younger, she was in the foster care system until she turned 18, and she's wanted since then a place that she could call home, and so she wants to buy her own house. And Maya needs the bonus to pay for the university tuition to become a nurse. As I've said in previous videos in which I've talked about Dana Hawkins books, I didn't like Invoked Trouble as much as I had loved the first installment in this series, which was Not in the Plan. I don't know if it was because I just didn't connect to the characters as much as I had in the previous novel, or because the characters were younger and so a bit more, I want to say, immature for my taste. The difference is not that much. I think the characters in this one are 23 and 25, and in the other novel they were 28 and 30, something like that. I mean, very different stages in life, you know, just a few years of difference, but worlds apart in terms of life experiences. So perhaps that affected me a little bit, but maybe it was just because I didn't connect as much. I didn't like the setting as much, just me personally, you know, this is a very, very subjective thing, but I did really enjoy the story. And again, I loved the audiobook narrator of this one. Elise Roth is so good. She's so good that when I was reading Here We Go Again last month, I was reading the ebook of that one, but in my mind, I was mentally playing an audiobook version of it, narrated by Elise Roth. That's how good she is, okay? She did such an incredible job. I love her voice. I don't know about her personally. I haven't done any research, but she does an amazing Latinx accent. And I do hope that she's going to narrate all Dana Hawkins books because I just want to keep listening to her voice. I hope that she narrates other sapphic romances because I think that she's perfect for them. Other differences, this one was much spicier than the previous one. The other one was more like a vanilla type of romance. It was closed doors, if you know what I mean. In this one, we do have some explicit romantic sexual scenes between the two characters, which I'm not saying is a negative thing in the slightest. It's just a difference to be aware of if you want to read these books. You can read them in any order you want, by the way. It doesn't really affect the reading experience in any way. I will say that the characters from the first novel do appear as a cameo in this one just once. The link here is Ben, who is Remy's roommate in this book, and he is Charlie's co-worker in Not in the Plan. And I'm just gonna put it out there, I would love to have a book about Ben. I think he is such a great character that I would love to get to know more, but I do not know if Dana Hawkins is going to write a romance with a male character because so far she's just writing sapphic romances, but who knows, maybe in the future. And if it does, I'll be here for it. But even for any other book written by Dana Hawkins, like, I'll be here. I'm waiting for them to come out, you know? Like, just let me know and I'll be there. Since it was not as good as Not in the Plan, but it was a very solid sapphic romance that I did enjoy, I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. And the last book that I read in the month of April is Just Another Epic Love Poem by Parisa Akhbari. This one, first of all, gorgeous cover, just stunning. I love it. I love to see it. Very artsy and very cute. And this is a YA queer contemporary novel that follows two girls. Mitra, who is our main character, and her best friend slash love interest, B. Not much happens in this novel. We follow Mitra as her friendship with B becomes something more and blossoms into a beautiful romantic love story, and how she slash they live this transition into becoming something more than friends after being best friends literally for 5 years. How do you deal with the fact that the person that you used to tell everything to and used to tell you everything is now your girlfriend, and perhaps you feel like you cannot say certain things anymore, like a simple I love you. Mitra used to tell I love you to B all the time, but that was when they were friends. Now that they are together, she cannot say I love you anymore, at least not with the same meaning. It becomes something different now that your relationship has evolved and turned into something new and something different. Mitra was also there for B when she got together with her ex-girlfriend. When they broke up, B was devastated, but she's now trying to be friends with her ex. And so how does Mitra deal with that? How not to be jealous of someone that your now girlfriend was brokenhearted over? And I don't think I've seen that often in YA literature, to see that switch, that transition from being friends to being together in queer friendship, in queer relationship, because they are different from heterosexual ones. It is different. They do have a different dynamic. And I think the author explored that brilliantly in a very realistic and sensitive way. I also loved how Mitra is Iranian American and her parents are Iranian, and when she comes out to them, she receives nothing but love. She jokes about how her father had fried pamphlets around the house, how to be there for your queer kid and all that stuff. And I thought that that was such a different depiction of a Middle Eastern culture in regards to queer people and how Middle Eastern parents react to their children coming out to them. It was such a different, loving depiction of, you know, parental love for your kid, no matter what culture you belong to, no matter what part of the world you come from, and no matter what religion you believe in. A contrast between that and how B's parents react to their kid being queer, because they are Latinx, they are Catholic, and they accept but not really they have that approach of, yes, okay, you're a lesbian, but can you not be so evident about the fact that you're a lesbian, about the fact that you're queer? Can you not keep those colors or those thoughts or those clothes to yourself instead of being so open and visible about your sexuality? Something else that is very specific to this book and that I really liked, I thought it was very interesting to see in a YA book, was the poetry. Mitra and B are writing an unending poem. They have this notebook in which they write poetry without ever using punctuation, without ever using full stops, because it is supposed to be never ending, and that's how they communicate between the two of them. They write poetry to each other, and I think that's one of the most romantic things that you could possibly do. And I appreciated so much how different the poetic voices are, even without reading the name at the beginning of the chapter, you know? You can really tell what verses were written by Mitra and what verses were written by B. Mitra is softer, more delicate, and B is radical and bold and loud, and that really comes across. That really speaks to the author's talent to be able to write poetry in such different ways that the poems really feel written by two different people. And if that wasn't enough, at some point in the story we get to know Mitra's mom, who wasn't really present because she struggled with drug addiction, and so she wasn't living with her family anymore, but then she comes back at some point to try and be part of her kids' lives. And she also used to write poetry when she was younger. So at some point we also get a poem written by Mitra's mom, and again it has a different voice. So I just loved how the author was able to change her tone while writing poetry for all her characters, like a chameleon, you know? She was so good, and I really appreciated that. I gave this book 3.75 stars for mainly two reasons. One, because I think it was a bit too slow for the sort of story that it was telling. I think it could have been either faster or shorter somehow. And the other reason is that I couldn't really connect with the characters all that much. Apart from Mitra and B, all the other characters didn't feel as real, didn't feel as fully fleshed out. That was kind of a bummer, because we do have a lot going on in this book. We do have a lot in terms of themes, in terms of diversity. We also have a Catholic non-binary teen, which we don't see often in YA books, as you can imagine, for very valid reasons. And also bonus points for the narration, because Nikki Masoon and Elena Ray did such an incredible job, particularly Elena Ray. I think she really gave B her voice, her bold, radical voice, and I just love that. But there were some things that didn't quite work out for me, and I think could have done slightly better. But I did really enjoy it, and I will check out other books that this author writes, because I could really see her talent in this novel. It really came across, and I was so happy to see that. This was it for my April wrap-up. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of the books that I've talked about, and let me know what books you read in the month of April, because I would love to know. And also let me know which was the best book that you read in the month of April. Mine clearly was The Evolving Truth of Ever Stronger Will, as you can imagine, but I would love to know yours. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you very soon with another one, but until then, have a good one, take care, and keep reading queer books. Warm hugs. Bye.